Most people think they understand what happens when an older man lives alone. They imagine loneliness, silence, isolation, and a life that slowly becomes smaller with each passing year. But the truth is far more complicated, because behind many quiet doors, something entirely unexpected is happening. Some older men are not merely surviving alone, they are thriving. They are discovering a kind of freedom, peace, and self-understanding that many people never experience. At the same time, there are hidden challenges that few are willing to discuss. Today we are going to explore the truth about older men living alone, the good, the bad, and the surprising psychological realities that most people never see. Let us uncover the truth. The first months are often the hardest. For the vast majority of men, living alone does not happen by design. It begins after a major cataclysmic life-change retirement, a painful divorce, the devastating loss of a spouse, or simply the quiet reality of children moving away to start their own lives. At first, the silence can feel overwhelming. In psychology, this is known as a disruption of habituation. For decades, his brain was wired to the sounds of another human being, the hum of conversation, the closing of doors, the shared routines. When those auditory and psychological cues vanish overnight, the nervous system enters a state of shock. The house feels different. The routine changes. The evenings seem impossibly longer. Many older men describe this specific period not as an absolute crisis, but as a profound adjustment. It is a psychological recalibration. They are not just learning how to manage a household, they are learning how to live with themselves again. When you have spent 40 years defining your identity in relation to other people as a husband, a father, a provider, meeting yourself alone in an empty room is a daunting task. The older man must build a completely new internal architecture, and building a new foundation takes immense patience, and it takes time. They learn the critical distinction between solitude and loneliness. Society deliberately conflates these two concepts. We are conditioned to believe that being physically alone automatically means being lonely. It doesn't. In clinical psychology, loneliness is defined as a state of emotional starvation. It is the painful feeling of being disconnected from the world when you deeply crave connection. Solitude, however, is a state of psychological abundance. It is the joy of being fully and unapologetically connected to yourself. Many older men look back on their lives and discover a shocking paradox. They realize that they felt significantly more lonely while sitting next to the wrong person in a bad marriage than they ever did sitting completely alone in an empty house. When a man is in a toxic relationship, his inner world is constantly invalidated. He is physically accompanied but psychologically abandoned. But when a senior man masters living alone, he becomes his own best company. He realizes that an empty room is not a void waiting to be filled by someone else's noise. It is a canvas waiting for his own masterpiece. Once he understands that solitude is a sanctuary and not a prison, that realization changes his entire trajectory. The fear of being alone completely loses its power. True freedom comes with intense responsibility. Living alone offers a senior man tremendous unadulterated freedom. He answers to no one. He can sleep when he wants, eat what he wants, and spend his money exactly how he chooses. But in the realm of psychology, boundless freedom without structure is a recipe for depression. Freedom has a price. When you live alone, there is nobody reminding you to take care of yourself, nobody organizing your schedule, nobody reminding you to eat a healthy meal, nobody checking on your physical health. If a man simply lets himself drift, the house will fall into disrepair, his health will decline, and his mind will stagnate. Therefore, older men who truly thrive alone are masters of self-regulation. They usually develop ironclad routines, they stay active, they maintain their environment, they schedule their own doctor's appointments. They care for their physical and mental health with the dedication of a sovereign king maintaining his castle. They do this because they understand a fundamental truth of masculinity. Independence requires discipline. To earn the right to live entirely on your own terms, you must become your own caretaker, your own manager, and your own greatest advocate. They become ruthlessly selective about relationships. One of the most significant psychological changes occurs in how older men view interpersonal dynamics. When they were younger, their boundaries were highly flexible. They tolerated bad friendships, toxic relatives, and draining romantic partners simply because they feared being alone. They operated under a scarcity mindset. Now, the equation has completely flipped. They know with empirical certainty that they can live happily, peacefully, and successfully by themselves. This changes their standards permanently. They no longer seek relationships to escape loneliness. Instead, they look for relationships that genuinely, tangibly improve their lives. They implement a strict filter of peace. They ask themselves, does this person add value to my life? Or do they drain my energy? If a person brings peace, intellect, and mutual respect, the gates are opened and they are warmly welcomed. But if someone brings chaos, manipulation, or constant negativity, distance immediately follows. The senior man who lives alone realizes that his time is a VIP lounge, and he is the bouncer. He simply refuses to let toxic people cross the velvet rope. We must address the hidden danger of isolation. While solitude can be a powerful medicine, total isolation can become a lethal poison. There is a dark side to living alone that many men fall victim to if they are not vigilant. When a man enjoys his peace a little too much, he may gradually begin to withdraw from the world entirely. He stops calling his old friends. He stops attending social events. He stops building new connections. He convinces himself that he doesn't need anyone at all. Over time, his world becomes smaller and smaller until it shrinks to the size of his living room. This is the precise moment where healthy solitude mutates into dangerous loneliness. Human beings are biologically wired for a baseline of tribal connection. Without it, cognitive decline accelerates, and mortality risk skyrockets. The healthiest older men understand this delicate balance. They know they must deliberately combat the gravitational pull of total isolation. They enjoy their time alone, but they force themselves to remain connected to the people who matter. They meet a friend for coffee, they join a hobby group, they call their grandchildren. They build a bridge between their quiet sanctuary and the outside world, ensuring that they command their solitude rather than letting their solitude command them. The greatest lesson they ultimately learn: when a man has spent years mastering the crucible of living alone, he arrives at a profound, unshakable philosophical truth. Perhaps the greatest lesson is this: a good life is not measured by the volume of the crowd that surrounds you. It is not measured by how many contacts are in your phone or how many social events you attend. It is measured strictly by the quality of your peace. Many older men discover that true happiness does not come from constant activity. It does not come from constant companionship, and it certainly does not come from the constant approval of society. It comes from living in absolute alignment with your deepest values. When you live alone, you cannot lie to yourself. You cannot hide behind the distraction of other people's problems. You are forced to look in the mirror and confront your own soul. And for many men, this quiet, solitary environment becomes the exact place where they finally discover who they truly are. They strip away the expectations of the world, and they find the sovereign king resting underneath. To the society that judges him, the solitary older man remains a mystery. They will continue to label him as lonely simply because they are too terrified to face their own silence. But the truth is written in his quiet life. He is not merely surviving. He has built a masterpiece of peace. If you are a man who has chosen the path of living alone, know that you are not broken. You have simply awakened. I want to hear from you. Head down to the comments and tell me, what was the hardest part about adjusting to living alone? And what is the greatest joy you have found in your solitude? Your wisdom and your scars will help guide the men who are just beginning this journey. If this story changed the way you look at the quiet strength of those living alone, please subscribe and like the video. We are exploring the deep psychological truths that define our lives. Let's build a more conscious future together. The next chapter of insight will be revealed soon.